Hello and welcome to Light Body Radio. I am your host, Dr. Lara May. I am a clinical pharmacist, Reiki master, and intuitive integrative health coach. As a health coach, I provide a safe, supportive process for aligning your dreams with your intentions. I will guide you to take small right action toward reaching your goals every week. Let's turn your vision into your reality today.
Hello and welcome. I'm really excited today. In this episode, we're going to take you through the circle of life, or otherwise called the wheel of life. And at this point, you might even know what I'm talking about, but that's okay because you're going to learn a tool to help you gain clarity today. We all have grand goals and dreams, right? We all have ideas of what we want to accomplish, what we want to do, what we want to change in our lives. But there seems to be a gap between the dream and the reality. And so today, this tool, the Circle of Life, is going to help you sort of assess your life as a whole. And then you get to pick where you want to start making changes and then how to do that. In my coaching business with clients, I work with and we focus on three main areas. And then once I get into the wheel of life, I'll talk about all the areas I'll try to be as brief as possible. Depending on how long this goes, this might turn into 2 episodes. So we'll just see how it goes. But I focus on food and nutrition. So that's part of the physical aspect of the body and how that is working or fitting into your life. And then we focus on mindset, which is your inner dialogue, what you think, how you think, do you want to change what that is and how that is, and then your spirituality. Do you have a practice? Do you want to practice? Maybe you don't want to practice meditation or connection with source or your higher self or with guides and angels. And so for each person, that's different and unique, but that's why I call myself an integrative coach, because those are the 3 things that I integrate and I think helps people feel the most fulfilled, the most connected, and the most satisfied with their lives. And then everything else that comes within the wheel is sort of, it's still called from my Institute for Integrative Nutrition Education, it's still called what we call primary food. And the actual real food that you eat, we actually call secondary food, because the primary food is what feeds our life and really what determines our happiness, our satisfaction, our stress level, or the lack thereof, the amount of peace and bliss we feel. So there's primary food and secondary food. The primary food is everything in the wheel. The secondary food is the food you put in your mouth. And as an integrative coach, I focus on the food, the spirituality connection, and your mindset. So that's a really brief rundown of a very general guideline too of how I work with my clients and my approach to sort of optimizing your life and making it the best possible and satisfactory life, happiest life that you can have and that you can develop. So if that resonates with you, awesome. And so this is one of our first tools that I will use in a session. It's called the Wheel of the Circle of Life, and it's often used to help you gain clarity, gain certainty about where you are and where you want to be, get unstuck, and feel less confused. So I think a lot of times what stems, or what is probably the foundation of confusion and ambiguity and sort of just that general dissatisfied feeling in our lives is that we don't have an exact idea or specific pinpoint of where it's coming from. So this tool really helps you. It forces you to look at different aspects to figure out where you are And then then you start to ask the questions about, well, where do I want to be? Am I happy here? Am I content but want to be in a different place? Am I totally not where I want to be? And then how do we get to where we want to be? So my job as a coach is to help you gain this clarity, to help you make productive decisions to move forward in life. These decisions help put into motion your plan of action that will get you the results that you're after. And so the second piece of this podcast is going to be setting goals and how to go through that. So there's a lot of information, and that's why I said earlier this might turn into 2 episodes depending on how long it takes me to get through everything and to explain everything. So anyway, that's what we're going to do today. I hope you're interested in gaining some clarity and having a tool that you can use over and over and over to figure out where you are and where you're going to be, or where you want to be and how to get there. So like I said earlier, most of the time, our main problem is that we don't know exactly what we want. We're confused. We might be dissatisfied, feeling kind of stuck, and maybe unfulfilled. And you simply can't pinpoint exactly why you're feeling this way, but you are seeking some guidance and direction. And again, that's where I come in as your coach to help you work with the wheel. And this is a visual tool to help you rank your level of satisfaction in various areas of your life. So from a coach's perspective, from my perspective when I'm working with you, this tool helps me get an understanding of also where your gaps are between your current reality and your desired reality. So it helps us to flesh out several things. One is your highest priorities. In other words, what's most important to you, and the areas that maybe need more attention in order for you to reach a deeper level of fulfillment and satisfaction. And this also lays the groundwork for goal setting, which sometimes can be elusive and painful and stressful and sort of maybe, hard to get through for some people. So it forces you to analyze your current reality while visualizing your desired reality. In addition, the Wheel of Life also provides a visual representation of the balance or the imbalance between the various areas of your life. So I'm going to pull up my Wheel of Life here so I can take you through the different areas really quickly. So the Circle of Life, or the Wheel of Life tool that I use, encompasses your social life, the amount of joy, spirituality, or your spiritual practice, creativity, finances, career, education, health, physical activity, home cooking, home environment, and relationships. And the way you work through it is I have you put a dot on the wheel, indicating your level of satisfaction within each area. So if your dot is at the center of the circle, it indicates more dissatisfaction. And the closer your dot is to the outside of the circle, the more satisfied you are. So you place all your dots and then you connect them, and ideally you have a perfect circle, but we all know perfection is an unrealistic aspiration and expectation. So it's never going to be perfect, but the closer to a circle it is, then that is symbolizes balance and satisfaction. So that's a brief rundown. And again, if you go over to the website for this episode, which is drlaramay.com/lightbodyradio/clarity. Again, that's drlaramay.com/lightbodyradio/clarity. You can download the wheel, and then I've also put together a printout of the questions that we'll go over soon, so that you have those to work with at your own pace, on your own time, and in your own space when you have time to sit down and really think about and flesh out these questions. So again, to sum it up, understanding where all these levels are really helps you better manage your life transitions and changes, restore balance in your life, and helps you lay down an optimal plan for moving forward. So we're going to prioritize your activities or your goals. This tool also enables you to track your progress as you come back during at different times along your journey. You can see how you progressed, and then you can also identify the gaps in the knowledge and the skills area that you may or may not have or that you may need, and identify the impact of emotions and stressors also within these areas. So if you're in the car listening right now, maybe just listen and absorb and come back to this episode later after you've downloaded the tools. It might be helpful to go ahead and go to the website, download the tools, and then you have them to look at as I'm going through the information. So step 1 is we're going to brainstorm several areas of your highest priority. What is the most important thing to you? Is it having a happy and loving relationship with your partner or your children or your family? Is it maybe your career and reaching a certain point of accomplishment in your career? Is it having a certain financial security or a certain level of financial accomplishment? Maybe one of your main priorities and goals is to just infuse as much joy into your daily life as possible. So I encourage you to look at the wheel, evaluate where you are, and really think about, well, what are really my highest priorities? What to me makes me feel the most fulfilled and the happiest and the most content in my day-to-day life? And maybe this is a good tool to just take down to a smaller level and maybe sort of do it every day just to see, maybe, do that every day for a week. It'll take 5 minutes. You say, well, okay, how am I feeling in the joy area today? How am I feeling in the creativity area today? How are my relationships? How's my finances? How's my social life? All of these things. And then maybe after you've done that, just that piece daily for a week, then you can see a trend. And maybe you want to do that every day for a couple weeks. And then maybe you'll see trends over maybe like every Monday. You're super bummed because you are not that satisfied in your job, but you have to go back there to pay the bills. So maybe that's an aspect or an area that you want to pick to start to work on. So again, pick an area to start with and ask yourself, how balanced do I feel in this area of my life? On a scale of 0 to 5, 0 being not satisfied at all, and 5 being super satisfied, how satisfied with this area of your life are you? So if you're driving and you're listening, go ahead and just think about that for a minute. And then think about, how did you arrive at this number? What were the thoughts that ran through your head? What were the other questions that came up when you were thinking about the number that you came up with? Did it also depend on the mood and the happiness of those around you? Did it depend on the amount of freedom that you felt when you thought about this aspect? So each one of these things has different layers, and the more you work with it, the more layers you'll be able to flesh out. And that's really how we get to the root of whatever issue, whatever problem, whatever goal that you're working with, is eventually you'll get to the root of sort of what's causing everything else. So all the trickle down, all of the cause and effects. And so this is, again, just one tool to help you get to that place. So how did you arrive at the number? And the next question is, what might you be missing in this area of your life? If your number was, not 5, which was complete satisfaction, if you're maybe at a 3, or maybe you're even down at a 1, or maybe you're absolutely not happy with a certain area, maybe finances, let's just pick that one. Maybe like you have a lot of debt and your goal is to get out of debt, or maybe your goal is to be financially independent and self-employed and successful in that way. So what is missing in this area that also brought you to this number. And either think about that or go ahead and jot that down. I'm going to be going through this kind of fast. So again, this is an episode that you can revisit many times, and you have the tools in front of you. So if you have a journal or a piece of paper, I encourage you to jot down notes if you're able to. Are you neglecting anything that might add value to this area of your life? So do you feel like, maybe in my relationship, I am definitely neglecting that quality time. Like we're both so busy with work, or we are both so busy with our kids. Maybe that relationship with your partner is not getting the attention that it needs to be fully fulfilled. Also, so those are the main questions for each area. Again, to make this the simplest way, just start with the area that's your highest priority and maybe just focus on that one. But eventually the goal is to go through the entire wheel and really evaluate each area individually, because they're all connected, and that's why it's a wheel. It's not a line. It's not a triangle, it's not a square, it's a circle, which means they're all connected. So start with the one that's most important to you, but then eventually maybe set a goal to work through one area per week or one area per month, depending on where you are in that area and how much work you feel like you need in that area. So again, after you've sort of made your dots and you've connected them all, were there any surprises to you? And how do you feel about your life as you look at the circle? Now, I don't want you to go into this judging yourself. That is absolutely never what I want you to do. Anytime I work with my clients or I take you through these exercises, I want you to look at it from the objective point of view, not from the judgmental. This is not supposed to give you another chance to beat yourself up. We all do plenty of that every day, whether we realize it or not. Anyway, so one of my cheesy little sayings that I use is the objective detective. I want you to be, objective in your evaluation of yourself and your situation and where you are. And sometimes we are surprised. You might think that, oh yeah, I'm totally happy with my job and my career right now. But after you think about it and you think about some of these questions, or maybe like how it's affecting your relationships, your family, your freedom, your creativity, maybe it turns out that you're actually not at a 5. Maybe you're more at like a 3. And that's okay. So spend time. So the next question is, how do you currently spend time in these areas? How much time do you dedicate to joy? Does it come through for you when you're exercising? Does it come through for you when you're, playing with your kids? Does it come through for you when you are maybe in a yoga class? There's so many different ways, and we all have our own definitions of creativity and joy. So I don't want you to get hung up on what you think like the societal definitions are. Like each one of these is your own personal interpretation and what it means to you and your life. So again, I'm going to take you through these just as a summation. Were there any surprises for you? How did you feel about your life as you looked at the circle from a non-judgmental, self-loving perspective? And how are you currently spending time in these areas? That sort of goes back to that neglect question. Do you need to commit more time to the different areas? Or maybe to some specific ones? How would you like to spend time in these areas? Maybe, obviously, I keep going back to the career. I think that's a really easy one to talk about. Like, we spend so much time at our jobs, at work. It's really easy to, I think, just get sort of like in what they call the grind. And I don't really like to use that word because hopefully your job isn't a grind. But the reality is that it is for a lot of people. We go to work to make money, to pay bills, to do all these other things in our life. But so we spend a lot of time there. Maybe we spend so much time there that we don't spend enough time with our family, with our social life, with our physical activity. So it's important to think about how much time do you spend in each area. Okay, which of these elements would you most like to improve upon? And this sort of goes back to like, what are your priorities? What are your goals? What's the most important to you right now? And again, this is a tool that can be reused. So right now, your highest priority might not be what it is in 3 months, or maybe your priorities are seasonal. Like for me, my priorities are different in the winter, than they are in the summer. My husband and I are huge winter activity people. So our priorities in the winter are totally different than they are in the summer. Maybe when you have kids, the priorities in the summer are different than they are in the school year. Or maybe they're in sports. And so maybe you're an athlete and your life is also dictated seasonal by whatever sport or activity you're doing. So think about that too. Where are you able to make space for change? So if we're evaluating where we are and where we want to be, and we're trying to get clarity. And so then one of the big aspects is making room for changes. And we have to be ready and willing to receive what we've asked for. And so, another thing that I work with a lot with my clients is the law of attraction and manifestation. I'm a student of Abraham Hicks, which is a channeled source from Esther and Jerry Hicks. And so I talk a lot about with my clients, like your words and your emotions are a lot of what creates your reality. So, but we also have to be ready to allow in the change and allow in what we've asked for and be ready to receive. So how can you make space for the changes that you're asking for? Where and what help from others might you need? And are you ready to ask for them? Sometimes it can be really hard for us to ask for help. And so, maybe we need to think about let's say we're taught to be super independent, not need anyone, be totally self-reliant. I can totally relate to that. But, sometimes we do need help, and we need to be willing to be vulnerable and ask for that help. And so maybe you're asking for help from someone that's judging you, that is going to hold it over your head after the fact. So also maybe think about like who the help could come from. If you're, trying to get help and you're feeling judged asking for it, then maybe think about asking someone else or finding a different resource for that help. Because, we have enough self-judgment on our own, in our own minds. We don't need judgment from the outside. And so there is plenty of non-judgment help out there. We just have to be willing to ask, be ready to receive, and allow the universe to bring to us what we've asked for. What would balance look like to you? And this is a huge thing, whether it's setting goals or manifesting. One of the ways that we get to that clarity is ask ourselves, well, what will the outcome look like in complete 100% success and satisfaction? So I want you to think about that. I don't want you to get bogged down in the how you're going to get there. Just think about, what is it going to look like when I have achieved everything I want and everything is in the balance that feels the best? So think about that. What would balance look like to you? I'm going to pause for some water. So if we're working together, then I would have you go through this prior to our session so we could spend as much time as possible addressing your results and coming up with the solutions. So now that we've gone around the wheel and we've reflected on the different aspects of your life, and you can visually see the balances and the imbalances, it's time to set some goals. So again, I'm going to go through these questions. All of the questions that I'm going through right now are in the handout that is on the website. And again, that's Dr. Lara May /lightbodyradio/clarity. And if that's too much, just go to Dr. Lara May /lightbodyradio, and you'll see it's the episode dated July 19th. Okay. So now that we're setting goals, I'm going to ask you some more questions. And this is really what coaching is all about. It's not about me giving you answers. It's not about me telling you what to do. It is about me giving you tools, asking you questions, and then holding you accountable. But you really figuring out what's going to work best for you, and then me being a support system for helping you to get there. So what stands out for you on the wheel when you view your rankings? And some of these questions might sound a little redundant, but it's to sort of get you thinking about it in different aspects. Everyone learns differently. Everyone thinks about things differently, so that's why. What would a 4 out of 5 look like in that area of your life? Or what would the, perfect circle look like in each area? What areas are you most motivated to work on? Are you wanting to work on your social life? Maybe you're single and looking for a partner, or like really just getting excited about dating again. What specific goals could you set in that specific area of your life? So maybe I'll keep with the dating scenario. If you're out there, maybe you're on Match, or I don't know, some of the online dating apps, or maybe you don't want anything to do with any of that online dating stuff. And so your goal is to like find some groups of like-minded individuals. So are you a mountain biker? Do you do yoga? Do you want to, I don't know, do you enjoy writing or art? Whatever it is, like get on meetup.com and just find some groups in your area. That sometimes there's just ones for singles. Sometimes there's like single hikers or runners or whatever. There's so many things and so many ways out there to meet people, and it can be intimidating, but being willing to put yourself out there. So maybe one of your specific goals is to find the groups and then follow through with actually going out and being a part of one and being active in one. What additional changes could potentially be made in the area that you've picked to work on? So maybe you have some really obvious things that you want to work on. You want to get a promotion. You want to get a raise. You want to improve the relationship with your partner. You want to find a partner. Those are sort of like the obvious ones. But then what additional changes? What sort of will come next? When it comes to, I don't know, let's see, creativity. If, maybe you want to take an art class or learn how to weld something or learn how to blow glass. Once you do that, well, what else is going to come? You're going to meet people. You're going to have this new skill. You're going to have a new outlet. So all of these are the additional changes that are potentials. Also, what goals do you have in the other areas of your life? So figure out what's most important. And then I would say whatever is when you've done the circle, the ones that are closest to the middle, maybe pick those to evaluate next. Because the closer we are to the outside in all of them, again, we're more satisfied in general. What specific changes do you want to make in these areas? So sort of your secondary areas. And which goals have you listed that you feel is most worthwhile pursuing first? So these questions are sort of, if you have done the wheel and you're still feeling a little ambiguous or unsure, these are to help you gain clarity about maybe where to start. So if you're not one of these people that knows exactly where you want to start working in your life, these questions will help you sort of figure out like where might be the most worthwhile for you to get the biggest bang for your buck, so to speak, in satisfaction results and happiness results and joy results. Okay, so once you've gone through those questions and you have some realistic goals in place, then we start with building a plan of action. And so in the end, it all comes down to making positive changes. And limiting beliefs and unhelpful thinking styles are our main obstacles to these challenges. So when I talk about limiting beliefs, that's comes back to our mindset and the mind chatter and the inner dialogue. Maybe you have been told your whole life that you have to work hard in order to earn anything and that life isn't easy. So some of these are some limiting beliefs that you may need to overcome or release or work on in order to be a successful entrepreneur or to make that financial goal or to get that promotion. Because actually life doesn't have to be hard all the time. And, it can be easy to make and earn money, but it really just depends on what your, sort of how you were raised, the things that you've absorbed over the years, whether it was from the media, your parents, church, friends, family, all of these things that we've absorbed over the years create our beliefs and then form our reality. So in order to make positive changes to change our reality, we really have to look at our limiting beliefs and those thinking styles that we have and the patterns and the habits. So with this in mind, it's helpful to get a sense of how willing are you and how open are you to change? Because in order to be happier, be more satisfied, be more successful, whatever that means to you, it's going to require some change. So are you totally willing and ready and excited for the journey? Do you feel dread and anxiety even when I say the word change? So really, I think that's important too, because the ease and the level of success you're going to feel and actualize for yourself, I think is definitely related to how willing and open you are. And so action actually is sort of the antidote to this anxiety. And that might also be a piece. Like once you start taking these first little steps of action in whatever area you've picked, maybe you'll become more willing because then you'll see, hey, this isn't as hard as I thought, or this isn't nearly as drudging or, torturous or whatever words, whatever anxiety is coming up for you. It's totally available for you to change that perspective. You just have to be willing and open and ready to. So back to the effective goals and action plans. Let's talk about this a little. Goals just don't get magically accomplished. You need a plan. And planning provides us with control over the outcomes. Now, I kind of hesitate to use the word control because I think some of us definitely are hung up on the aspect of controlling every aspect of our lives, which is really unrealistic and I think can create a lot of stress. But anyway, so don't focus too much on that word control. But when you have a plan, it provides you with a sense of clarity, certainty, and confidence that your goals can and will be achieved. It gives you the sort of that optimism of, hey, this actually can happen. Like it's not just pie in the sky dream. It's not just this daydream I've been having. Like this is actually a chance for some real change. And so also when you have a plan, it helps you have confidence that propels you forward and motivates you through the challenges and the bumps in the road that you might face along the way. So take some time to outline a goal that you would like to achieve. We sort of already been through some of those questions, so maybe you have one that you can think about now. And now we're going to go through some more questions. Can you start working on the goal right now? And if so, how? Can you maintain working on this goal, both in the short term and the long term? Or what is the time frame for this goal? Is it only just like a little short-term thing? Or is this going to be more of like a longitudinal, like with the area of joy or creativity? Those to me sort of are more long-term things. It's not like a one and done. Maybe like the career aspect might be like, oh, once I have this job, then you have this idea that some other things will fall into place. So again, short term, long term, what is the goal? How much of the goal is under your direct control? There's that control word again. So is it within your direct control, or is it more of you having to align yourself in a different way, which will allow the universe to bring these things to you and into your life, and you're not really in control? And that's okay, but it's good to know so you don't, get the expectation hangover and get sort of defeated and discouraged. What factors of this goal are somewhat within your control? What factors are not within your control? And what do you need to do to bring things within your control? And I think a lot of this, to me, with these few questions right now, it's going to be primarily mindset stuff, because our perception of control really determines how we feel about it. So it might be that you need to shift your mindset and to shift your perception within this area. What could other people potentially do for you to help you attain the goal? Who will be assisting you? And what can you offer other people to get their assistance? So everything in life really is a give and take, and it's an energetic exchange. What I truly believe, what we put out into the world, we receive back in some way, shape, or form. So when you're asking people for help, I think it's totally reasonable to offer a trade or offer something in exchange. And so maybe if you're looking for advancements in your career, you're going to look for a headhunter, and typically that energetic exchange will be money. But maybe with the social aspect, you need a wingman or a wingwoman. And so that is going to be a different kind of energetic exchange. Be like, hey, I want to start dating. I want to meet someone. Will you be my wingman or wingwoman and go out with me on this day and time and, help me meet somebody? Let's see. Where am I with my questions? How will you know if you are on course to achieve your goal? So you need to set some aspects of, milestones, or there's a word I'm looking for. I can't think of it right now. Anyway, so you'll set, let's say like by a certain time, then you will have achieved A, B, or C, or you will know that you're on your way to achieving this goal if you have, received this or accomplished that. And so this one is, how will you know if you are on course to achieve your goal? So sort of think about this is sort of thinking about the final outcome and what will that look like. How will you measure your progress? Are you going to measure it in time? Are you going to measure it in emotions and feelings? Will you measure it in monetary value, or I don't know. There's different ways depending on whatever your goal is, how you will measure your progress. And then this is sort of a redundant question, but what specifically will you measure? And how will you know when your outcome has been achieved? So this, again, takes you to the final outcome and really visualizing that. And once we get towards the end of this episode, I'm going to take you through a visualization process to help you, again, attain more clarity and really visualize what success in your area will look like. So again, this might seem like a lot, but again, like you have the questions to be printed out or to be saved. And I encourage you to go through them. Take your time. Sometimes, like I talked about before, we might not know exactly, but the more we think about it, the more things that come up along the way, then we're able to get more clear about things. So it's important to also think about, is this goal in keeping with who I am? I think career is a great example here. You might have this idea of success in your career, but does that resonate with what you believe in, what your ethics and morals are? Does it resonate with maybe your political values? I had to think about this when I was forming my business because, I'm still a clinical pharmacist working in an acute care hospital facility, but it started to get to the point where there were things about that job and working in that field that I didn't really resonate as strongly with anymore. So it's really important to ask yourself, does my goal resonate with who I am? Is this goal good for me? What will this goal really do for me? And do I feel comfortable with it? If your goal isn't keeping with your beliefs, values, and personal standards, then you will most likely struggle to follow through with your plan. We have to think about, are you doing it for yourself or are you doing it for someone else? Are you doing it for someone else's approval? Are you doing it for the definition that maybe your parents or family put on you to think was success? Or think about, did they tell you, oh, you should be doing this, or this is really what success looks like? Maybe it's not, and maybe that's changed, and maybe it's time to have a come to Jesus moment about that. So if you're unable to follow through, then you have absolutely no hope of achieving your goal, right? So be realistic, but also be true to yourself, and really think about who you are now and what you want, and find something that resonates with that. All right, so we've been at this for almost 40 minutes, and I'm about halfway through the material. So I'm going to, I don't know, let's see. Do we want to keep going? Because the next step is clarifying your goals. I think I'm going to make a second episode because I've already been through a lot and I want to give you guys time to process and work through everything. So I'm going to mark where I am, and in the next episode, we'll talk about clarifying your goal, because there's some very specific exercises that go into this, and so I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. And then we'll do the visualization exercise at the end of the next episode. So thank you guys for tuning in. I hope that you work through this tool. I would love to hear your questions and your feedback. Again, it's called The Wheel of Life, and you can download it from my podcast website. And I've also included the questions that we went through for you to go back and work through on your own at your own pace. Let's see, what else? You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Dr. Lara May. That's DrLaramay. I'm super excited to announce that I'm on Podbean, Stitcher, and iTunes now. So that is Light Body Radio. Depending on where you're listening to this or how you found me, you can now you can find me and download me at iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, and the Anchor platforms. So I'm really excited about that. And I want to know what you guys want to hear and learn about or hear from me. So do you like it when I take you through visualizations and meditations? Do you want to hear more about manifestation and maybe some of the spiritual aspects? Right now, my blog is working through a series on meditation. So definitely check out my blog. That's drlaramay.com/blog. And I'm really breaking down all the aspects of meditation and giving you some tools for beginners. I'm working through some of the things that we come up with, or the walls that we come up against when we meditate. Different things. That's going to be, I can't remember if it's an 8 or 12 week series, but this is the second week of that. So definitely tune in for that. And, there's lots of free resources on my website, so definitely check it out, drlaramay.com. I have lots of fun stuff for you to download, whether you're looking for food plans, or I have a disordered eating guide to help you sort of assess where you are and look at that. I also have a digital detox plan you can download. All of that's for free. And I think that's it for today. I hope you guys have a fantastic day and a fantastic week to come. And I will talk to you next week. Namaste.